I love it. Our theme song has no lyrics.
Yeah, I thought you were going to start talking. I was like, oh man, I think he's waiting for me to end it.
I was enjoying it. I think that's really funny. Because I don't want you to have to go through singing a theme song every week. That would probably be torturous. So I like it. Unless you want to. If you want to write some lyrics or if.
Yeah. Well, that was the Ramones I was playing, but it
was a Ramones. See,
but I would be happy to write something.
That's right. Do it again. That was good. Do it again.
Oh yeah. Okay. Here we go.
All right. There it is. I'm being sedated. That one, right? Nice. All right. You got it. They got Adam to stand up. That's how good it is. There you go. All right. That's good shit. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just a little, that was actually dead on. And I'm just like, that's probably the first time you've been dead on. And I'm like, what's that song? Is that
That's in my wheelhouse. Not this Guns N' Roses.
Like, you hit it perfect. Nice. You're crushing it. I know you're very excited. Anthony's very excited. It's Punk Month.
Oh yeah.
We finally got a month that he would love. So we so yeah, I'm excited. We're gonna do some cool stuff today. I'm gonna bring everybody in because I'm gonna do my random pulls because I think I'm gonna pose the question of what is sometimes things are punk and are they really punk? Or are they some other genre? Because I think some guys slip into the genre and sometimes some guys start there and end up out of there. So it's gonna be an interesting, fun discussion today. So I'm bringing in the two other riffraff, the punk rockers. We got Jeffrey Paul, Adam Holtz, everybody. Hey. Very cool. Did anybody buy vinyl this week?
No.
Okay. All right. So there's no random buys. All right. So we'll do random pulls. I did buy some albums, but it's all country, and I feel it doesn't go with our thing today. So do the random pull. Now, this is a guy that I think is punk. I think he kind of gets a label of not being punk because of how much influence he had on metal. But I feel Alice Cooper should be considered in the realm of punk rock. I think he's doing something and was doing something and still doing something. He's still touring that I feel is, it's what punk is, where it's rebellious, it's dark, it's, it's skulls, it's rock and roll, it's makeup, it's whatever, it's all that stuff. And I feel nobody did it better than Alice. And this is a great album. I guess Trash is this album. It's got Poison, Spark in the Dark, House of Fire, Why Trust You, Only My Heart Talking, Bed of Nails, This Maniac, Love With You, Hell is Living Without You, I'm Your Gun. So yeah, this is a great little album. Good stuff. Check it out. And here's another one that is, most people would not consider them punk, but I feel the beat is punk, and that's a little band called The Cars.
Oh, The Cars. Was that Candio?
Yeah, this is a nice album. This is a original release, so it's kind of hard to find. And that's another band. I'm curious to see how you guys feel about, certain bands like these two particular bands. But so yeah, you know what I mean? They're fast. It's like quick songs, they're uniformed. There's just something about it that feels punk. Now they got so much radio play. So whereas most punk bands don't get. So I feel like success almost makes you not punk, which is a weird topic as well. So we're going there. But how you guys feel about that? Alice Cooper, do you think he's kind of in part of that genre of punk?
I never considered it.
Yeah.
I never considered Alice Cooper punk.
I think you pose a great question. And I think that doing this assignment this week was a lot harder than I thought it was when it was initially broached. It's like what you said, what defines punk? And I also realized, I don't know if I like punk as much as I really thought I was going to. I think of the
interesting.
I got better with it with age. Actually, I think my punk, whatever, level of my punk, what would you call it? Kind of my connoisseur of punk is now later in my life. I feel like I caught a lot of bands that I didn't catch when I was younger. And so I appreciate it a little more now. I appreciate when bands are kind of, just kind of taking it to the man. And I don't think, people did it better than Punk. So, so I feel like Bon Jovi wasn't, really pushing the envelope. You know what I mean? Where it's like, you know what I mean? There's, at least with Punk, they may not play as well, a lot of punk bands, as Bon Jovi, but I feel like they're saying more and doing, I don't know. It's a movement, it's a thing.
Yeah. I think out of the two albums that you just showed, I think, probably maybe the Cars would be a little bit more punk to me. I would categorize them more as new wave because of when they came out. And Alice Cooper, I'd say more rock and roll and hard rock than punk. But I understand where you're going with it. I mean, especially the way they look.
This is very Danzig. This is very Danzig. This is very Misfits.
Is Danzig punk?
Yeah.
I
would say.
His solo stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. His solo stuff was slightly more on the hard rock kind of metal.
It was almost borderline metal.
But Misfits, come on.
Misfits are punk.
That's like textbook punk. So, but that's what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Like it all kind of, just saying, might have influenced it. Don't give up on Alice. Alice doesn't live here anymore. Alice doesn't live here anymore. No, nobody. Only Jeff gets that reference because we are very old. Cool. All right, Jeff. So I know you have like 52 spots you got to do later. So we're going to let you break it open. So the assignment this week was everybody, kind of does their top 5 punk albums. And it doesn't have to be it could be your own collection. It could be who you personally like. Jeff is going to be like, it's going to be matter of fact because he's very competitive with lists. Whereas I'm very open and organic with it. But Jeff, so what do you got for us for your 5 punk albums, brother? What do you got?
This is what I also realized. I'm proud. My list is probably going to be the least punk list out of all of them. I think. I think I am going to be the most commercial punk.
It's okay. So Green Day's punk. That's cool.
Yeah, I was going to say in no particular order. I put Green Day down as one of my, as number 5. 1974 album Dookie, I think, is probably, if that's a punk album.
You say it's 74 or 94?
94. Did I say 74?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. I was off by 20
Holy
years.
shit, they look great.
But I do think they're a band that influenced and embraced punk rock. I think,
they're good.
They were punk, but they got a lot of radio airplays. Mm-hmm. Songs like Long View and Welcome to Paradise and When I Come Around and Basket Case. They were all big hits on AM radio and MTV, and they were basically, I think, at the forefront of the 90s punk resurgence, which leads me to my second album, which is a band that is completely influenced by Green Day and also has the brother of one of the members of Green Day is Rancid. Mm-hmm. And I think come out and Out Come the Wolves was, I remember when this album came out, the third studio album by Rancid. I loved them because even though they were kind of influenced by Green Day, they had more of a very early Clash sound to it. They, like a song like Ruby Soho and Time Bomb, but Ruby Soho, kind of had like that little almost, ska type of sound to it. It was like very, very danceable. Again, a lot of airplay, early Clash. If we're going to go punk, maybe these guys are the godfathers of punk, is the Ramones that Anthony was playing. And it's almost impossible to pick one Ramone album that is quintessential Ramones. But for me, I would have to say 77's Rocket to Russia. I remember loving this album. I was kind of thinking Road to Ruin a little bit, but I like the versatility of Rocket to Russia a little bit better. I think when you look at songs from Cretin Hop to the cover of Surfing Bird, and then Sheena is a punk rocker and Rockaway Beach, really catchy. And I think quintessential punk is fast, quick songs, 3 minutes or under. And I think the Ramones do this better than anybody. Maybe the best punk album of all time, if they are considered punk, is The Clash. I didn't know how you guys would feel about this, but is The Clash considered punk? And if it is, 79's London Calling, one of the greatest albums of any genre all time. And this album really, and we've covered this on the show before, but this album really grew from Give 'Em Enough Rope in every way. When you look at, again, diversity on the album, songs like Jimmy Jazz, Rudy Can't Fail with the Jamaican sound, which I think Rancid took a little bit from. Montgomery Cliff, Lost in the Supermarket. I mean, God, man, it's such a sick, incredible album. And then we didn't even talk about Guns of Brixton, the title track, the hidden track, Train in Vain. It's Hateful, Clampdown. To me, it has to be top 5 albums in my personal collection of all time. And then I'm going to go, because you have to, and I have other ones that I put down here, but I'm just going to live it at 5, is the Sex Pistols, Nevermind the Bollocks. Here's the Sex Pistols. I didn't realize how much I kind of like the sound. I thought I would hate it, but I liked it better. It really, they were influenced by a lot more hard rock bands than I thought. Even though Johnny Rotten and Sid Vicious are probably the 2 big frontmen from the band, I really think the low-key hero of this group is Steve Jones, the guitar player, especially on this album.
Oh, yeah.
And I think like God Save the Queen is like the big song. Anarchy in the UK has been covered by like Motley Crue and other bands. But for me, the song that really brings it home for me is Pretty Vacant. And I've heard covers of this, but this to me is like, that's why I put it in my top 5 punk albums. So these are my top 5. I wasn't sure what order I was going to go in, so I had a couple of extras down here.
Yeah, no, that was great. I didn't think you would go so 90s with the first 2, Rancid and Green Day. I didn't see that coming. That was a quick, just out of nowhere. Yeah, I feel like, those bands are great because I feel like they're kind of like, they're making music kind of good again, because there was a lot of, just, it was something different, I think. They were kind of, even though it was a callback to like early punk, I still feel it was refreshing with the Limp Bizkits and, some of the, even grunge got a little after a while. You're like, okay, enough with the depression.
They all sound the same.
Yeah, after a while, you're like, okay, my God, can we just get something upbeat here? And so I think Green Day and Rancid as well, I mean, kind of came in and what was the other one? Presidents of the United States of America or something.
Oh, yeah.
They had that song, Peaches.
Yeah.
I hated it. I didn't like that.
I think
they were good. Yeah.
They have a bunch of great albums, not just that first one that everybody knows.
Yeah.
But what's kind of cool about them is that they were from Seattle.
Oh, nice.
They broke like as grunge was dying.
Okay.
So it was so interesting to have a band like that coming out of Seattle at that time.
Can I ask you guys this?
Sure.
What did you guys think about a band also from the 90s called Goldfinger? And would you consider them punk?
I loved Goldfinger in the 90s. The first album is punk.
Yes.
Yeah.
The second album was a little more ska, Hang Ups. But that first one, that's a punk album, I would say. Pop punk.
Well,
skate punk even.
That's the question. I mean, do you have to be like the Ramones to be considered a true punk
and that's
band?
What made this hard.
Well, I mean, Clash is all over the place. I mean, out of nowhere, there's like a piano dude and a saxophone. You're like, what?
Right. And so is that punk?
Yeah. I think ska is very punk, and so I think it's a different kind of punk, and so I think that's what these bands do. They kind of something like the Clash specifically, and to me they are the godfathers of punk. Way before the Ramones, because I feel like
the Ramones were before this.
It doesn't matter. I feel like they brought it to. They were doing something nobody else did. Even though the Ramones are great, I still feel there was just a sound that became the Clash that is just kind of too inspirational not to call them the Godfathers, because I think they were the most talented punk band of all time.
Okay, so where do you think punk starts? Does punk start in England? Does it start at CBGB's on the Lower East Side?
I mean, I think England wins that fight, but I think CBGB's had some influence that, I think CBGB's had a good, I don't know. It's kind of like, I don't know, like our soccer team, it's like in the US, it's like we can't really quite compete with England, but we do okay. I think England is where it all comes from. I think so? Even the bands of CBGBs were influenced by it. I mean, I don't know. What do you think, Anthony? Are you?
I'm not sure. I feel like it would come down to whenever the first Ramones album came out and when that Sex Pistols album came out.
Okay.
I'm not sure of the exact year. Ramones were first?
Yeah.
I think that a lot of what we associate with the look of punk comes from what the English bands were doing. Like the Sex Pistols didn't look like the Ramones, so they kind of brought the look and some of the sound. I mean, a lot of bands started to sound English after the Sex Pistols and the Clash broke.
Would you guys say like bands like Television are punk? Television, the Dead Boys. Would you say those are punk bands?
I think they were probably part of this. They were part of the same scene. There was a lot of band like the B-52s and Blondie. They were all part of that CBGB scene. But then
Blondie changes their sound. When they first start out, they're a little bit more melodic punk, and then they wind up taking on the influences of the day, like disco. Okay.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about like the bands that kind of like really hung in there, like again, like the Dead Boys, who never really had any commercial success, but they were kind of like the quintessential, like you would go on a Tuesday night to CBGBs and they'd be playing and, be fucking things up, and that was like, what the Dead Boys were.
I think they were a punk band. Television was more kind of like post-punk, which is weird because it was happening around the same time.
I don't know. I mean, I was trying to look up 60s punk bands because I feel like, The Who is punk to me.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get more punk than The Who.
It's well, you're right about that because I think some of those punk bands are definitely influenced by The Who. 100%.
Yeah, I mean they're breaking instruments and like Fuck the Man and like it's like I don't know. It's
some of the 60s kind of garage rock bands were doing like the Sonics and stuff like that. They were doing things that were considered punk later.
If you have keyboards in your band, are you punk?
You can be.
Yeah. According to my album selections, yes.
I want to hear you guys. Let's hear what you guys have to say.
Well, first of all, great job, Jeff. That was good. Anybody have anything else on Jeff's great selection?
I like him.
They did a good job.
I like his picks.
They did a good job. I wonder if go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say there's a bunch of viewer comments too, and for Jeff's picks, Tasty Snack says I listened to Rancid forever ago. The show makes me feel old.
Well, here's the deal, dude. That's the youngest band we're gonna have on the show. So wait till you hear my picks. So
I could have gone with some 41. Okay, they're right. That's as early as I'm getting. The latest.
I like that. That's your young band. That was like 25 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. All right, dude. Wait till I start going. I got all the old shit. But anyway, it's great. So I'm going to go next just because I want Jeff to be in on mine as well. So I also chose a Clash album. This I love this. Give 'Em Enough Rope. I feel like it's a little harder than London Calling. Like I feel like there's just some, I don't know. I'm drawn to this one a little more. I feel like this was I believe their second release, but it was the first one released in America. So this was released, and then the Clash was released after in America. So it was like kind of a switcheroo kind of thing. So this one got some play, and then they became popular, and so they had the other one. There's some funny stuff on this album. I thought the producer hated. The vocals of Strummer, and so he raised the drums because on the album he wanted the drums to be louder because he hated his vocals, and so I thought that was really cool. But yeah, I think this is a cool album. Probably my favorite song on here is the Tommy Gun is great.
It's one of my favorite songs.
Such a great song. It's such a good thing there. And I also chose the Sex Pistols. I feel like this is one of those albums that. I know it's great on vinyl. I think everyone should have this album. I think it is kind of it's a 1-in-1, which is crazy. It's kind of this 1-in-1. They never did another studio album together. There's a lot of live stuff they released, but interesting things on here I didn't know. Researching, I didn't realize how bad a bass player that Sid Vicious was. Apparently,
terrible.
Really, he was so bad.
He doesn't even really play on that, does he? He's like on two songs.
There's like two songs that he plays on, and apparently Steve Jones had to play bass over his tracks. He had to go back in and play it. But that's the thing, because that's what punk. But there's nobody more punk.
He was punk,
So it's like it's not just the talent of the play; it's also the swag of the attitude and the look. He had the perfect punk hair and all that stuff.
And what a great punk rock name, Sid Vicious.
Come on, dude, Johnny Rotten too. It's great.
He was his bass was unplugged a lot of times at shows. Yeah, he couldn't play. He was awful.
Yeah, well, he was so doped up, and there was a lot of problems there. But man, but when you think of the band, you think of him more than anybody. You think of him over Johnny Rotten, even, and it's like especially with the story and Sid and Nancy, like he just became this narrative to the band. But this is a great album from top to finish. I get so much done when I put this on. I feel like it motivates me. It's a good workout album. It's a good clean the house album. It's a good fuck you, bad day album. Like, it's just a great album to have. And then this is one that's like, I'll do this one. I think this is going to be a Devo. I feel like
they punk.
That's the question. That's the question. That's the thing. Are they synth pop, or are they new wave, or are they punk? I know Anthony's really into them. What do you think, Anthony?
I think they were part of the scene. I think as people were figuring out how to classify the bands, they were part of the initial scene. But then I think their music ended up being considered more new wave later.
Yeah.
But they started out, I think, being kind of a punk band, art rock band.
Yeah.
I like that term for them.
Yeah. And this is, this is a great album. This is their third album, Freedom of Choice. It's got Whip It on there. Like, this is the album that kind of blew them up. An MTV video. They were all over the place.
The title track rocks.
Yeah. And, that's a good one. But I also feel like they were a little deeper than I thought. Like, I guess Whip It had something to do with like kind of commenting on the job Jimmy Carter was doing as a president. And then it was something to do with like Norman Vincent book, The Power of Positive Thinking. I'm like, so when bands are doing shit like that, I'm like, what? I just don't see with these weird guys in hats, but in like, this cone hats. Like, I didn't even know what they were, because I was a kid when it came out. And so you're like, what? They just were weird and fun. But you get older, you realize the music is good.
You were drawn to them.
Yeah, and they have a lot of groovy stuff. Like, I have a buddy who's a sound engineer and stuff, and he has some Devo cuts that are like blues and weird and experimental and like all kinds of stuff. So so they're great. They're a great band. So I would say punk, because I say they have the attitude of punk. They're just kind of this newer, flashier version of it, and of the times. They were punk of what the 80s was becoming. And, there's another band a lot of people wouldn't call punk, Cramps. I feel like, they were part of that CBGB scene. So it is a little probably more psychedelic rock, a little more surf rock, but such a good band. You can't go wrong with the Cramps. This is a great album. Flame Job, it's got some really great songs on it. And Mean Machine and How You Do Me and stuff. It's just a great album. And I think they're very talented, and they don't fall into that, like every song sounds the same. They're really kind of doing some intricate stuff as far as a band. And then we're going to go kind of if you're going to go Godfather, I would put them in the top 5. Little Dead Kennedys here with us today. This is their debut album. This is, I forgot how good this album was.
So good.
This is a great album. It really is. And I know, Jeff, you hate punk, but to me, this.
I don't hate punk. Yeah. I thought I would like it a lot more. Like when I looked at what punk was, and it was very hard to define what punk was. Yeah. Like right now, I'm still trying to decide if Devo is punk. I understand what you guys are saying. It's just.
I think that punk turned into a marketing technique when these bands were first coming out. It was like how we had in the 90s, everything was alternative. Mm-hmm. That was what punk was in the late 70s and early 90s. And then a couple of bands got big, and then record companies wanted bands to fit into very specific rules about what punk was supposed to be.
Is punk as much about the music as is about the look and the attitude? Is it? It
is about the music. It's about the music if your songs are commenting on things, like with the Sex Pistols, they're commenting.
Could country then be considered punk?
What country? Certain country would. I mean, Hank the Third maybe, but it's like, it really depends. I think Sturgill Simpson's kind of leaning towards that because he's doing something different. But the Dead Kennedys are punk. I think everybody in the world can agree that the Dead Kennedys are punk. This is a great band. Holiday in Cambodia. I mean, that's one of those songs that you just heard as a kid, and it just kind of hummed through you as a kid trying to find some different music. This album's great. This guy, it's like I think let's see. He's running for mayor. He ran for mayor at one point, which that's probably when you don't become punk. When you start
Jello?
running. Yeah, Jello
Baraffa, right?
Jello Baraffa. Yeah,
Jello Biafra.
Eric. Yeah. What's his regular name?
I don't know his regular name.
I think it's Pudding Martin.
Yeah, Eric. I think it's Eric. I think it's Eric Reed Brocher. That's his real name.
Oh, Jello Biafra sounds
and
cool.
Carlos Cadona is 6025. So, and that came from like an inspection clothing sticker or something. Like where you get the crappy.
Right. Inspected by
6025. Oh, it's my name now. So to me, that's punk rock. And so this is a great album. I love his voice. I think he's got a great punk voice. I think it's soulful and just, it's anarchy. It's great. It's fun. It's like, if you're going to have a punk album, this is a high recommend. I think it's a great band. And, and I don't think there's a better logo than that. I think
it's a great one.
It is a great logo, man.
I can only think of one that might top it. It's one of mine that
Which is? Oh, you're right. Okay.
Yeah. I'll tell.
Twisted Sister.
Yeah.
That's a great logo. Stop it.
Twisted Sister is a good logo. Yeah.
Yeah. This is a original release, by the way. So this is a great.
By the way, right behind me that's a drumhead signed by all 4 original members of the Ramones, and right above it is Twisted Sister.
Why wouldn't you open with that, Jeff? All right. Anthony, what do you got for us?
All right. I had the same kind of problem where there are a couple things that I wasn't sure if they would fit into punk rock, and I'm changing my list now.
You're pulling an audible?
I'm pulling an
audible.
In
the middle of the show?
In the middle of the show.
Oh, but come on. You got to let us make fun of you if you picked it wrong. That's part of the show.
No, because there were ones that I wasn't going to include.
But punk rock. And
there were
Billy
albums
Ray Cyrus,
I
would,
Brian Adams.
Yeah.
John Cougar Mellencamp.
Pat Benatar.
Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, baby.
Oh, we heard. Yeah, she wore them down. They were like, okay, leave us alone. Stop stalking us. She was sending letters every day. Why not in? I should be in. And like showing up. It'll remove her several times. All right, go ahead, Anthony.
All right. So my list is not in really any particular order, but I'll start with one that surprisingly me and Jeff have in common. I actually also picked Green Day's Dookie.
Green Day.
It came out when I was 10 years old. It was one of the first punk bands that I heard that I didn't know of because of my mom. Because my mom,
likes good music, though.
Yeah, she does. She was watching all the bands we were talking about. All the CBGB bands and stuff. She saw them at that time. So I grew up listening to all that stuff, which I still enjoy. But Green Day was like one of the first punk bands that I liked before my mom. And Dookie, I still like it. I know it's a major label album.
No, it's great.
But it's great. It's a great one. Maybe this is cheating, but the album that introduced me to the Ramones. This is my mom had this CD. It's a compilation. It's called Ramones Mania, and I picked that one as well.
I remember that album.
It came out. I think it was 88. It's got 30 songs. It's sort of it compiles a lot of their singles, and I think there's maybe a couple of B-sides. And what's different? Rock and Roll High School is the version from the movie.
I love that movie.
Yeah. So the CD has the version from the movie in there, and that was sort of because it was hard for me to pick. I was going to pick like an actual Ramones album, but this is the one that I heard first when I was growing up, and so it's got everything you need on there. Ramones Mania. What else do I have on here? I've got Offspring.
I think it's cheating a little bit doing like a greatest hits.
It's cheating, but I had a reason.
It's his list. There's no rules
here. I had a reason for
There's
picking
no rules. There's no rules.
It's the punk. One I grew.
That's punk.
Well,
exactly.
Punk bands did put out a lot of compilations.
There's nothing wrong with compilations
things like that.
You don't have to. It's fine.
Normally, I don't. in general, I like listening to an album the way that an artist.
What do you mean, like
intended.
Eagles' greatest hits? You talking about like that? Okay.
But
if I was doing a classic rock list, I could not put that on my list.
All right.
I would just pick the hotel.
You know what?
Would you let him finish?
List.
I thought you had to leave, Jeff. Anyway, let him finish.
I got 5 more minutes.
Offspring Smash.
They're great band, but are they punk? I love them.
Yes. Oh yeah, it's Southern California kind of skate punk kind of sound. Yeah, definitely a punk band.
Love Offspring.
Yeah, one of my first albums that I bought when I was a kid came out when I was about nine years old, I think.
And you're friends with those guys, right?
And I'm Noodles and Todd.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Didn't you and Kevin Goatee meet them at like one of your shows?
Yeah. It was my show. He was on it that night, I think. And yes, we met at Niagara, the bar.
I remember that
in the Lower East Side. Yeah, they left some passes for us. They had a night off. They came out. They watched our terrible bar show. And we hung out after, and they left some VIP passes. And I showed up with a different comic that night. I don't know if Kevin went, actually.
He did. He was the one that told me the story.
Well, he didn't hang out with us that night because I went with a different comic.
Kevin pushes people away, so that makes sense.
So I went with this other comic, and then we ended up going backstage with them, and we hung out. We went to a bar like a few blocks away from the venue where the show was at Terminal 5. And I've kept in touch with them. I talked to those guys.
Yeah, they retweet you and stuff. It's great.
Yeah. I've hung out with them a few times.
Nice.
When I was on tour in 2019, I was in Salt Lake City, and I had a night off. We were just driving to the next city, and they were doing a show in Salt Lake City that night, and so we hung out with them again that night. And it was some festival. So Black Flag was there. It was just Greg Ginn is the only guy.
Yeah.
And Sum 41 was there. And it was pretty cool. I was like standing off to the side of the stage watching the Offspring, and the guy from Sum 41 is also there just texting.
Nice.
Derek?
Yeah, Derek. Yeah.
You were like Lady Gaga on Stars Born. You were just like to the side, just in awe. As and he brings you on stage, and you're like, D is for divorce. All right.
All right. So how many is that? What am I at? I'm at 3. That's 3, right? Okay.
Yeah. Adam's got to go.
Black Flag, Damaged.
Black Flag. There you go. That's punk.
The other band that has maybe a better logo than the Dead Kennedys.
That's right.
Pretty cool. Very cool.
Damaged is, I guess it was their first full-length album, but Henry Rollins was the singer. They were on like their 4th singer by that point.
Yeah.
But they put out mostly EPs before that. So Damaged, one of the best. It's a little bit more hardcore.
It's good workout music. Yeah, I work out to it sometimes. Yeah.
I go running listening to that.
Nice.
It's perfect for that. And then maybe my number one. This was the one that I wasn't going to include because I wasn't sure, but I think it counts as punk. Nirvana, In Utero.
Yep.
It's a great album. Yeah.
Probably my favorite album of all time.
But I didn't think it was punk.
I didn't think it was punk either. But if we're playing it, I mean, they were definitely influenced.
If we're letting Devo get a pass, then Nirvana gets a pass.
Yeah. I wasn't gonna put it originally because it's
interesting.
Definitely punk influenced. Yeah. But there's a lot of things about them.
It's one of my favorite albums from theirs.
Yeah, probably my favorite.
It's great.
I think it's their best too. I think it's better than Nevermind.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love how noisy it is, and it's great. I love Steve Albini as a producer. He's
great. I like you doing an audible. That was interesting. All right, it's first audible on the show. I love it.
All right, guys, I'm going to take off from here.
Poor Adam, you can't get at least one of his albums. God.
I'll say for one.
That Fire Hall can wait. Adam, what do you got? All right.
If it's Natural Milk Hotel, I'm out.
Oh. Yeah. So this, this was a tough list also to come up with. Just 5. I had a bunch here. I actually realized that all the albums on my list came out in the last 20 years. I was gonna put Green Day Dookie and Offspring Smash. I love both of those albums. Green Day Dookie, especially hearing that in high school, that was one of it definitely formed my music taste too. But but I decided as I started re-listening to a lot of these albums, I decided I'm like, all right, I'm going to keep it to the last 20 years. And a lot of these bands are Northeast bands too, mostly New Jersey bands. So first I'm going to start off with Jeff Rosenstock, 2018 Post. And this is very lo-fi DIY punk. He's from Long Island. The album is basically it's representative of what's going on today. A lot of it was his reaction to the election in 2016, but it was more about what the fuck is going on around us, and it's trying to figure out why people have such different opinions, why a lot of it is born out of frustration. I mean, you have songs called like "Beating My Head Against the Wall," "Your Throat," which is about how could you have a voice if I can't remember the lyric off the top of my head, but it's a great album. They have 9 out of 10 is a great song. TV Stars. It's a more recent album, is definitely somebody to check out. He put out an album recently that he re-recorded the entire album in ska also. So
wow. Punk, that's pretty punk.
Yeah.
Jeff.
Yeah, I think on that note, I'm out of here.
Right. Get out of here. We don't need you.
Bye, guys.
Right. I'm going to protest her getting in. Anthony and I are going to show up with signs.
Right. And Judas Priest got in as well.
Records.
So.
It's going to be breaking Pat Benatar
Duran
records.
got in also.
Who did?
Duran. And I think the Eurythmics. I think Eurythmics.
I like Duran better than Pat Benatar. I'll tell you that.
Maybe we'll talk about it next time. Take care, guys.
Yep. Take care, buddy.
All right, see you later.
Look both ways. All right.
Oh man,
nothing. He missed it. Anyway, keep going, Adam. Good list.
All right. So the next one is this is actually a pretty unique one. It's a New Jersey. Actually, these guys live the next town over from where I grew up. It's Titus Andronicus, The Monitor from 2010, and this album is a kind of a punk concept album that partially has to do with the Civil War. Oh, wow. So it's a really interesting kind of tie-in. One of the lyrics that they keep repeating over and over is "The enemy is everywhere." It reminds me a little bit of Green Day's "American Idiot," but I think this is a bit more rage-filled, and especially, a lot of the lyrics name check a lot of places around me. This album actually just celebrated its 10th anniversary recently. It's a great album to check out. And then I go, let's see what the next one is. All right, this is a band that I know Anthony really likes. Parquet Courts, Light Up Gold, Tally All the Things That You Broke.
Yeah, I love that one.
Yeah, and this is I think this is still my favorite of theirs. And this was I'm not sure. Oh, it's the second album. But Masters of My Craft, Borrowed Time, incredible 1-2 punch to start. One of the best 1-2 punches I'd say on any album. Yeah. And it's kind of like if the Minutemen meet Pavement. It's almost like stoner punk, or slacker punk. Yeah.
I love that one. By far their best.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's a great one. It flows perfectly. It's fast and short. And I mean, it's such great lyrics. I always love Master of My Craft, where they just shout out that Socrates died in the fucking gutter.
Yeah, that's a great one. And you got to sing along with that one.
Right. And then and Stoned and Starving too. Just getting stoned in Queens and trying to decide what to eat. Ridgewood, Queens. Yeah.
I've been.
I moved to Ridgewood after that came out.
Really?
Yeah. It was cool to live in Ridgewood. They were like a Bushwick band, and then they moved to Ridgewood.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it made it cool.
Yeah, they're a band they're one of the only bands on this list that I haven't seen live, and I keep every time they come around, I want to see them live. I just miss out. I think they're coming back around soon, but great band to check out. And then all right, now to the actual vinyl ones.
Finally, some other vinyl people.
Right.
I thought I was the only one.
So this one, this is one of my favorites. It's one that I think is borderline punk. It's indie rock punk. He actually started out in punk bands in the 80s, and then in the 90s did a lot of was in a lot of indie rock bands. And this is one of his solo albums, the Ted Leo and the Pharmacists, Hearts of Oak from 2003. And this is and first off, if you haven't heard Ted Leo, he's got incredible vocal range. And I kind of compare him to Elvis Costello, a little bit of Joe Jackson in there. There's a lot of Thin Lizzy in there too. His songs are very very literate. And I actually had, I could pull up this quote, which I think sums him up perfectly. From Spin, said that Ted Leo is the David Mamet of indie rock. He packs his taut punk songs with words that, strictly speaking, don't belong in rock, like abjure or ossify. And despite all these words, he rocks, a skill that Mamet has never mastered. But this is amazing. He's a New Jersey native. He his a lot of the songs in this album are there's political songs on here. There's also a lot of songs that are about being. There's like a song, Ballad of the Sin Eater, where he talks about going abroad and just being seen as an ugly American everywhere he goes, just because of his views and also just attitude. But it's a great album, start to finish. Definitely one to check out. And then the last one, another New Jersey band, the Gaslight Anthem, 59 Sound.
Nice.
There we go. And now this one, all right, so there's a Portuguese word I just learned recently called só de J. I don't even know if I pronounced it right or anything, but it basically means this kind of melancholy yearning for some place or some time that you haven't really experienced. And that's what I feel is this album. This album is, this was in, what was this, 2009. It's really obsessed with the past and, classic cars. Actually, some of the lines, classic cars, movie screens. There's references to Elvis, to Miles Davis, to Audrey Hepburn. It is I'd say on a lot of lists, it's considered one of the best New Jersey albums too. They're a band that they started to sound a little bit like Springsteen as they went on. They this is their second album, is their best album, and it's a kind of a romanticized punk, I would say. It's definitely one that's worth checking out. And they're a band that they just announced that they're reuniting and they're going to be playing a bunch of shows coming up soon. So that is, I didn't have an order to the list. Just kind of also pulled an audible and picked a couple different ones for my list, but
that's not allowed.
I like that Jeff wants to make rules about what's allowed when we're making punk lists.
Right.
No, absolutely. I think that was great. Go ahead.
I was just saying one more thing I completely forgot about. When I was revisiting a lot of these albums, I kept thinking about what is punk. Punk is, you have that DIY aesthetic to it. You have, that you kind of rail against the establishment, against complacency and conformity. But a lot of these albums really kind of also show that punk is born out of boredom too. A lot of these albums, they just talk about how bored they are.
Especially the Ramones.
Oh yeah.
I just want to sniff some glue.
Yeah.
I just want to have something to do.
I think the worst thing that ever happened to punk was Machine Gun Kelly. I think that was the worst. I also think hip hop can be very punk in the sense of kind of where it's bred from and stuff.
NWA, and it has all the same
Public
attitude
Enemy,
as any hardcore punk album.
Absolutely.
Public Enemy too, yeah.
Well, we have in the chat room, we have Control Alt Quinn who says, "What is punk? What is hip hop? What is rock and roll? Artist people should be able to create freely without labels. But when I close my eyes and think punk, Dead Kennedys definitely come to mind."
Yeah. I considered them for my list too. I figured someone might pick it.
Yeah, right. And actually, I have the album, so I'm cooler than everybody.
I had the it wasn't an original press. I had the second album on vinyl. Oh yeah, Plastic Surgery Disasters, but it wasn't an original press.
So this was great. Adam, once again, unbelievable. Like he's just like pulling quotes and like, I wish we got to get you a job at Rolling Stone. You're amazing. You're really good.
I can write this stuff so much better.
No, you're great.
I was trying to, I've been trying to listen to, I mean, a lot of these albums were albums that I listened to in my 20s or,
that's great.
And I feel like the 2000s were great, especially early 2000s were a great time for punk. And
yeah,
you know, it's interesting revisiting it now because, you know, either like you were saying before, like maybe you appreciate it a bit more as you get older.
Absolutely.
And there's definitely some that I listened to and I was like, you know,
well,
I don't know what I was thinking.
When I was younger, it was like, you know, most of my music was like, you know, whatever I could listen to get a girl to pay attention to me.
Right.
So a lot of times it was like, I mean, I kind of like The Cure. I kind of like the Smiths, but it was really more so to get the girl with the bangs and the eyeliner. You know what I mean? Like it was more about that than it was actually loving the band. But the older I get, I can just like what I like. And there's no, you know, kind of motive there except just the band is good or whatnot. But great job. And a lot of bands I hadn't heard of that I want to listen to that it was in your list. And I think that's great because that's punk rock when you're just doing bands that nobody's heard of. So.
Yeah. There were a few I had not heard of
what?
before.
He's like, and then it's like, then you're pulling local stuff. Like you just really nailed the assignment. Good work, Adam.
Right. I wish I had the vinyl. I actually went to the record store a couple times last week to try to get some of the like Titus Andronicus to Monitor. They just re-released it for the anniversary and Jeff Rosenstock Post, but it's tough. It's tough to get. I feel that I guess with the vinyl shortage, you know, it's
smaller bands.
It's pretty difficult to get. Yeah.
Well, I go to this place in LA. It's called Record Parlor, and it's all just originals, and so they don't even do re-releases unless somebody
weeks,
sells
I'm gonna be there.
Oh yeah, you're gonna be there 2 weeks.
It out.
2 weeks?
Like 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
About 3
Very
weeks.
excited. Very excited.
You gotta take me over to that record shop.
I got you. Well, we're gonna do. You and I'll just be in the studio, and then we'll just zoom in these guys. So that'll be fun.
I've been looking for that Parquet Courts album on vinyl for a while, and a couple months ago I saw a different album that I hadn't heard of. I forget what the name of it was. I put it on. There's one song with vocals, and the rest of it is just improv noise that they did in the studio. It was just all noise.
Nice.
But I didn't know that. And I was like, man, this album's not that good. And then I kept waiting for the next song to start. It was just noise the whole way through.
You guys, that band FX, you know them, right?
No Effects, yeah.
No Effects.
Yeah. So I was at a show, and the lead singer, the guy who created the band,
Fat
or whatever,
Mike,
his dad was like in the crowd, and like he came up and like talked to us and stuff.
Like, man, you're hanging out with Fat Mike's dad?
Yeah, so we do. All right, guys. I guess we'll skip the thing that Adam and I were gonna do. We'll just we'll wrap it up. We'll punk rock. I'm gonna slam dance my dog.
A short one, a little short episode.
We're gonna do these punk memes, but I'm just so over the internet right now. So we'll, unless you have one. Do you have one quick that you can?
Let me see. I just
don't know how we pull these up.
Why don't we do a? You want to do a Star Wars one for May the 4th?
Sure, you dork. What do you got? Star Wars May the 4th meme. All right, it's kind of show. We can do whatever we want. There's a lot of May the 4th Twitchers out there. So,
all right. Here we go. We got a little play on Bohemian Rhapsody here. Oh, geez, I can't even.
Yeah, we got to find a better way for you to do this. Yeah, you're the worst. You have to.
I should probably send it to Jay.
You probably should have sent it to Jay, like I recommended.
Right.
All right, everybody. That's our show. Yep. Jay's like, yep, send it to me.
All right, next time.
He'll pull it up. Yeah.
All right, buy punk music. Go get vinyl and hit our YouTube page. Bye, everybody.
See you later.
Look at Anthony. Look like the Queen. God save the Queen. God save the Queen.